Join me as I recount the unexpected pain of my mother's sudden passing and how I still can't believe I did it. Thank you so much for watching the video and taking the time to leave a comment. Really appreciate it. I'll continue the story very soon, so stay tuned. There are moments in life that transcend mere memory. They take root within you, becoming a part of your very essence, instances that alter your very breath, your slumber, and the way you perceive those you once held dear with unwavering trust. Once I believed that grief was the most profound pain one could endure when my mother passed away. It felt as though my entire world shattered into pieces, the house fell into a hush, and I too became still, yet that was merely silence. It was not long before tranquility was shattered. For at times what sorrow reveals can be far more harrowing than what it steals away. That night lingers in my memory, the moment when everything changed. The rain fell steadily outside, a rhythmic patter against the window pane, not difficult, merely a gentle chilly drizzle powdering against the window, as if it sought to remind me of its presence. Perched on the edge of my bed, I cradled one of my mother's sweaters in my hands. The scent lingered, a haunting reminder of her presence, similar to the soothing essence of lavender intertwined with the rich aroma of coffee. It feels like home at that moment. My father entered the room. What he uttered that night, what he requested of me, it lacked the weight of grief. It lacked the essence of comfort. It was a sensation akin to betrayal, yet not the boisterous variety, not the type that shouts loudly and forcefully shuts doors. No, this one murmured. It slipped in gently, akin to a whispering shadow, a hug that lingers, just a moment beyond what feels comfortable in that moment. A profound truth dawned on me, one that no one ever truly equips you to face at times. The individual you mourn is not the one who has passed away. It remains the solitary figure before you, the individual you believed was worthy of your trust. Nora is the name I go by. This is a tale I've kept to myself, hidden away from all ears. Not my closest companion. He is not my brother. I couldn't even find the words to share with the therapist I attempted. To see once this tale has resided within me for years, searing a passage through my very being. At long last, I am releasing it into the world. Perhaps by voicing my thoughts, I can reach someone out there. Someone akin to you who might find solace in knowing they are not alone in their quietude. A brief interlude, a subtle tremor in the voice. Before we embark on this journey, it's important to keep this in mind. The tales I present within Heartfelt Tales unfold, transcend mere storytelling. They are truths hidden beneath the surface, a tale shared in hushed tones beneath the cloak of night, meant for ears that truly yearn to hear. If you find yourself resonating with the strength of unfiltered truth, the tangled web of human feelings, and the bittersweet pangs of intricate love, then stay right here. Join Heartfelt. Tales unfold, for the insights I'm about to reveal will transform your understanding of grief, family, and the sense of love for all eternity. In the stillness of the night, my mother took her last breath serene. That's what they claimed. Her breathing gradually slowed, and then it came to a halt. I discovered her nestled in her beloved knit blanket, the soft hum of the TV filling the air around us. She would invariably drift off while immersed in those classic nature documentaries. Even creatures flit through the trees, while majestic whales glide beneath the ocean's surface. She remarked that the sounds brought her a sense of tranquility, as if the world retained its beauty. Even amidst life's chaos, as I stepped into the living room that morning, the only sound that greeted me was the relentless hum of static, and then a profound stillness enveloped the air. The oppressive silence envelopes you, a weight on your chest, as if it seeks to alert you to an unseen danger before your mind can fully comprehend it. The subsequent days unfolded in a haze, not the kind of blur that involves dramatic tears and collapsing to the floor. It had taken a turn for the worse. It was devoid of sensation. The gathering for the funeral was intimate. only a handful of family friends. Eli hardly uttered a single word throughout the entire duration. He maintained his hood over his head, fixated on the ground, his hands buried deep in his pockets, as if he were holding himself together by mere threads, and Father Henry remained as still as Astatue throughout the duration. Not a single tear was shed. He remained silent, unless addressed by another. He extended his hand, offered a nod, yet his gaze wandered. Far beyond the present moment, in truth, they had resided in another place for many years. In my formative years, the presence of my father was a distant shadow, elusive and undefined. He was the sort of man who returned home, in the late hours dined in, silence, and drifted off to sleep in the recliner. There, remote control still clutched in his hand, he exhibited neither cruelty nor kindness. Simply, remote mother often remarked that he was weary. He is putting in tremendous effort on our behalf, perhaps. He was yet, it often seemed as though he labored merely to flee from something lurking in the shadows, or perhaps an individual, perhaps even we ourselves. Yet mother held a deep affection for him, even in the moments when his gaze barely brushed against her during dinner, even in the moments when he let their anniversary slip from his mind for 2 consecutive years, even in those moments when she found herself weeping in solitude within the confines of the bathroom after her attempts to coax him into revealing his thoughts. I immersed myself in it completely, savoring each and every moment in hushed stillness. It is simply what I have come to understand and embrace. Embrace the essence of modesty. Remain silent, refrain from stirring anything. Eli stood apart, unique in his own way. He resembled Heron, many ways exuding warmth and emotion, perpetually striving to mend what was broken, yet following her departure. A part of him extinguished entirely. He ceased to strum, the guitar ceased to venture. Outside, he would seclude himself in his room, cranking the music to a volume that made the floorboards tremble beneath him. I lacked the courage to inquire about his well-being, for the simple reason that I wasn't. I never imagined I could bear the weight of both our burdens. The house took on the air of a museum in her absence, as if time had come to a standstill. Yet not in a manner that could be deemed beautiful. The atmosphere felt laden with the unspoken words that lingered in the silence of her absence. Their shoes lingered by the front door, a silent testament to their presence. The coffee mug remained abandoned in the sink. I found myself unable to muster the will to cleanse it. I began to don her sweaters. I would find myself on the porch, her weathered journal in hand, turning its pages yet tunable to decipher the words that stirred a deep ache within my chest. That moment marked the singular occasion when I truly felt a connection with her father. He began to observe that initially. I believed he was merely in mourning. Indeed, we all were, yet his gaze would remain lingering longer than intended. Not in a paternal manner in Amoner. I couldn't articulate, not at this moment. He lingered in doorways. A moment stretched just beyond its natural limit. His silence weighed more than it ever had before. More engaged, if that resonates at all. It was as if he wasn't merely present. He was observing me intently in the stillness of the night. I descended to the kitchen at 2 Cautionary, driven by a simple thirst for water. He'd arrived before anyone else, merely pausing within the shadows. Darkness envelopes the space. Only the moonlight poured through the blinds, caressing the curve of his shoulders. He gazed up at me and murmured, "I keep expecting her to walk in." I inclined my head. In agreement, I conveyed to him likewise I truly meant it. Yet he remarked that she was the very essence of this home at this moment. It's solely the two of us. The manner in which he expressed that it sent a shiver through my gut. I reassured myself that it was merely a figment of my imagination. I was tender from sorrow, interpreting every detail with heightened sensitivity. I found myself weary. He felt a profound sense of solitude. Indeed, we all were yet beneath the surface. A sense of unease lingered. In the air, had I only been aware of the ways in which grief can contort a soul. If only I had truly grasped the depths of what silence can conceal. I promise you this, I would have gathered my belongings, and fled remote. Yet I refrained, I remained. I remained because I continued to hold on to the notion of family. I envisioned a moment where we could embrace one another. Weathering the storm together, I acknowledge my mistake. Utterly misguided what unfolded thereafter. It caught me completely off guard on a Sunday afternoon. Silence, a silence that lacks serenity, simply weighty. The sky lingered in shades of gray, a memory etched in my mind, as if it were caught in a dilemma, unsure whether to let the rain fall or simply linger in a melancholic haze alongside the rest of us. I had finally summoned the courage to begin the process of sorting through my mother's belongings. Not due to my preparedness, I doubt I would ever truly be that way. Yet the stillness within, those walls began to close in on me, a heavy weight that felt increasingly unbearable, and the space she called her own. Her room exuded an eerie presence, as if a specter lingered within its walls. I slipped into one of her vintage sweatshirts. The windows were flung open. She began to sift through her closet. Every object I handled seemed to dissolve her presence. Her scarf retained the scent of her hair. Her reading glasses bore the remnants of smudges, a testament to her hurried moments of literary escape. A half-finished bottle of perfume rested on her nightstand, a silent testament to moments both cherished and fleeting. As I released a single spray into the air, a sudden force struck me in the chest, compelling me to take a seat. It was at that moment I sensed the presence of footsteps trailing behind me leisurely. Uncertain, without needing to glance back, I was already aware it was him, Father. He lingered in the doorway for a brief moment, merely remained in place, observing my every move, cradling a box that was unfamiliar to me. It was unadorned, merely an unassuming cardboard box. Yet the manner in which he held it close to his heart suggested it was a treasure of profound significance. I understood that whatever lay within held significance for him. At the very least, I discovered this in the attic, he remarked, his voice resonated more gentle than normal. Not weary, deliberate, calculated, inaudit, anticipating that he would pass it to me. He approached and set it down softly on the bed. He then took a seat beside it on the precipice, excessively near with deliberate care. I lifted the lid of the box. Within lay images. Ancient beings. Images I had yet to encounter. Parents in their 20s. Her laughter echoed through the air. His smile truly beaming. It was unlike anything I had ever witnessed in reality. Amidst the unfolding, narrative letters emerged. As well, one of them had a lipstick kiss adorning the envelope. It caused a sharp sting in my eyes. From deployment. I would pen letters to her, he murmured. She always held on to them, even those lacking in wisdom, they claimed. To have made her feel as though I was near his, hand extended then effortlessly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and settled gently atop mine. Yet it lacked a sense of casualness. It lacked a sense of paternal warmth. It lingered, far too long, cozy yet insistent. I delicately withdrew my hand and feigned interest in the images before me, yet within a knot was beginning to form in my stomach. Then he spoke, not with sorrow in his voice, but with something entirely different, something that sent a shiver down my spine. Now it's only you and me, Nora. It is essential that we look after one another. I gulped with difficulty, made an attempt to smile, attempted to imbue it. With the significance I desired, what would the alternative be? Negative, no, I wasn't prepared to venture there. Not at this moment. I confided in him that I was weary. I mentioned that I would need to complete it later as I exited the room. My heart raced with fervor. The remainder of the day slipped by in a haze. My mind wandered, unable to latch onto a single thought. Gazed at the television, yet remained oblivious to its content. My skin felt constricted as if it no longer belonged to me. Eli remained ensconced in his room throughout the day, headphones firmly in place, the bass of his music pulsing gently through the wall. Akin to a heartbeat, I struggled to decipher the evening meal arrived. and departed father remained largely silent, yet his gaze remained fixed upon me later that night, when the lights had long been extinguished, and I had nestled into bed desperately attempting to summon the embrace of sleep. I heard it a gentle rap. 3 soft knocks echoed against my door. I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. Initially, I considered the possibility that it might be Eli. Perhaps he had a desire to converse. Perhaps he too found himself restless in the night. Yet the door groaned as it opened, revealing a shadowy figure, lofty, sturdy. Yet it was undeniably him. "Nora," he murmured, softly, "are you awake?" I chose not to respond. I was unable to. My heart pounded with such intensity that I was convinced he could hear it echoing in the silence. He entered the room, softly shutting the door behind him. And then he spoke. It contorted my stomach in a manner I had never thought conceivable. It felt as though a part of me had fractured irreparably in that instant. Every boundary I believed to be unyielding crumbled into fragments, and nothing at all. Everything changed irrevocably from that moment on. Sleep eluded me that night. Not in the slightest. I lay there, my eyes wide open, fixated on the cracks in the ceiling as if they held the secrets I sought. He had not laid a finger on me. Not quite yet. The words he uttered, the essence of his words, it hung in the air. A persistent fog that refused to dissipate. The words echoed in my mind, a relentless loop that I couldn't escape, repeatedly attempting to reshape them into an entirely different form, endeavoring to create them like a guiding hand, steady and reassuring. A fatherly presence brings warmth and wisdom to life's journey. Pure, yet they were not. He lingered at the foot of my bed within the shadows, and I find myself gazing at you only to catch a glimpse of her in your features. Identical gaze, same way you hold your head when you're sad. Then he took a step closer and said, "I don't want to feel alone anymore." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My body went stiff like my brain, and my heart disconnected in that moment. And when he finally left the room quietly, like nothing had happened, I felt like I had just walked through a storm without moving an inch. The next morning, I avoided him completely. Made up an excuse to take a walk. Said I needed to clear my head. But the truth, I was afraid to look at him. Afraid to look at myself. I felt sick, like something had been ripped open inside me. Something dark. Something I didn't know how to name, and I hated him. God, I did. But what scared me even more was how I also hated myself for not walking away, for not yelling, for not slamming the door in his face, for freezing, for staying. I kept thinking about that night when Mom died, how he held me in the kitchen, arms around my shoulders, my tears soaking into his shirt. He didn't say much, but it was the first time in years he actually held me. And back then, I told myself he was just mourning, that we both were, that maybe something in him had cracked open, that maybe I was finally seeing a version of my father who felt something. But now looking back, I wonder if that was the beginning. If he'd been trying to fill that hole in his heart with something I was never meant to give. And still, even after what he said, even after the way he looked at me, part of me kept making excuses for him. He's grieving, he doesn't know what he's doing. We're all broken right now. Those thoughts became like background noise, the kind you don't notice until it's too loud to ignore. I didn't tell Eli, didn't tell anyone. Because what would I even say? That my father said something strange, that maybe he was crossing a line I didn't want to believe was real. And what if I was wrong? What if I was misreading him? What if this was just what grief looked like for him, and I was the one making it ugly? I started avoiding him more, only came downstairs when I knew he wasn't around. I started locking my door, didn't even think about it, just started doing it like it was instinct, but nothing felt safe anymore. Not the house, not his eyes, not even me. because I didn't trust myself to see clearly anymore. Was it affection or manipulation? Was he trying to connect with me as a daughter, or was he using me to replace the woman he lost? I couldn't tell, and that was the worst part. Because when love and grief and loneliness all start blending together, it gets hard to know where one ends and the other begins. I started having these dreams twisted, versions of our life Mom was still alive. But I could never reach her. She'd just stand at the end of the hallway watching me, disappointed, silent. And I'd wake up drenched in sweat, feeling like I was drowning in guilt for something I hadn't even done. Yet that's the part. No one talks about the before. The confusion that comes when a line hasn't been crossed. But you can feel the ground cracking beneath your feet, and every step feels like you might fall straight through it. Didn't stop after. That night, after he stood at my door and whispered words that turned my stomach. Things didn't go back to normal, but they didn't explode either. They just shifted quietly, dangerously. He started showing up more little things at first, like making me tea in the evenings. He'd hand me a cup without saying much, then sit across from me like we were old friends, just two people sipping comfort in a house that had forgotten how to feel warm. He'd ask if I was sleeping. Okay. If I needed anything, he'd tell me. He was proud of me for holding it together. At first, I convinced myself it was progress, that maybe we were healing, that maybe we were finding our way back to something safe. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that. At all. Because slowly his words started changing. So did his touches. They weren't fatherly, not anymore. A hand on my shoulder that lingered a brush of his fingers against my lower back as I passed him in the hallway. A hug that held on too long. I'd stiffen, but I didn't say. Anything didn't push him away. I just froze. And every time after every small violation that didn't quite cross the line, I'd retreat into my head, desperately trying to rewrite it. He's just lonely. He doesn't realize he's grieving. But the truth was, I think he did know. I think he always knew. Because there was a look in his eyes, a softness that didn't belong there, a hunger that had no business being pointed at me. The late-night conversations became a pattern. He'd knock gently on my door around midnight, ask if I was still awake, and sit on the edge of my bed. He'd talk about Mom, how she used to sit in that very spot, how she'd cry when no one was watching, how he wished he'd loved her better. And I'd just sit there wrapped in her sweater, nodding, swallowing the lump in my throat because part of me felt sorry for him. He looked broken, truly broken, but the lines, they were bleeding together one night. He brought in an old photo. It was from their wedding. Mom looked radiant, young, and glowing, and so in love. He sat next to me, held the picture up to my face and whispered, "You look just like her." Then he started to cry, real tears. Silent, steady, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was supposed to comfort him or run or scream or disappear. Instead, I reached out, put a hand on his shoulder, and he leaned into me, pressed his forehead to my neck, and just stayed there, breathing me in, holding me like I was something precious and familiar and lost. And again, I didn't move. I kept telling myself he's grieving, but every time I believed that, every time I let it be enough of a reason to stay quiet, I lost a piece of myself apiece. I'm still trying to find. I stopped going out, stopped calling my friends. I didn't want to lie, but I didn't want to tell the truth either, because what was the truth that I was being emotionally swallowed whole by the man who raised me, that I couldn't breathe in my own home anymore. But I didn't know how to leave. Jaden didn't say much during those days, but he watched me. I could feel it, like he knew something was off. And I think maybe that's why I stayed, because I didn't want to leave him behind. I thought I could protect him from everything, from Dad, from me, but I couldn't even protect myself. And then came the night that broke whatever thin barrier was left. It was late, almost 2 in the morning. I was sitting in the living room, curled up in Mom's old blanket, trying to lose myself in an old book. I'd read 100 times something. Familiar. Something safe. I didn't hear him come down the stairs. But suddenly he was there right behind me. He sat beside me, too close again, and I didn't have the strength to move. Not that night. He stared at the fireplace for a long time, before speaking. And when he did, his voice was calm, clear. "I miss her," he said. "I miss what it felt like to be seen, to be touched, to be needed." I didn't say anything. My hands gripped the blanket tighter. Then he looked at me and I felt it in my bones before he even said it. He said, "We don't have to be alone, Nora. Not anymore." And in that moment, my whole body went cold, because there it was, spoken no more, pretending no more, hiding behind grief or silence or carefully chosen words. He said it out loud, what he wanted, and I didn't leave, I didn't scream, I didn't run. I froze, just like I always did. And in that stillness, in that horrible, breathless stillness, something inside me broke, not all at once, not loudly, just quietly, like the slow crack of porcelain invisible to the eye, but fatal. Just the same that night after, he said it, after those words left his mouth, like they had every right to exist between us. I sat frozen. The world felt still, but my body was screaming. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. My palms were sweaty. My mouth dry. My thoughts. They weren't even thoughts. They were just flashes, images, memories, fear. I wanted to believe I'd get up, that I'd yell, that I'd tell him how sick, how twisted he was. But I didn't. I sat there wrapped in Mom's blanket. And all I could think was, how did we get here? How did the man who raised me, who kissed me goodnight when I was 5, who held my bike seat steady when I learned to ride, who once chased away monsters under my bed, how did that man become this? And then he moved, subtle, like a whisper. He reached out his hand, brushing against my cheek. It was soft, tender, wrong. I flinched, but he didn't stop. His thumb, traced just beneath my eye, wiped away a tear I hadn't even noticed was falling. He said, "You don't have to cry. You're not doing anything wrong. This could be love too." And that was when something snapped. Not in him. In me. I stood up so fast. The blanket fell to the floor. My chair screeched across the wooden floorboards. I backed away from him like he'd just turned into a stranger because he had. "Don't," I whispered. And then louder, "Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again." His face changed. Then, just for a second, from soft sorrow to something sharper. Like I had broken the spell. I saw it. That flicker, that awareness. And suddenly everything felt real, undeniable, dangerous. I ran out of the room, through the hallway, past Elias' closed door. I don't even remember opening the front door. Just remember the cold hitting me like a slap, bare feet on the porch. Winter air biting at my skin, and me breathing like I'd just escaped. A burning building. I stood therein, the dark under a sky with no stars. Chest heaving, heart racing like it was trying to outrun the shame crawling up my spine. But I hadn't gone anywhere. Not really. I was still there. Still his daughter, still in that house, still bound to this family, by blood and silence. I remember wrapping my arms around myself, not to keep warm, but to hold myself together because I felt like I was falling apart in slow motion. And even then, even with everything that had just happened, I still heard it, that awful little whisper in the back of my mind. Maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe he's just broken. Maybe I'm overreacting. But no, I wasn't. I knew I wasn't. I stayed outside for what felt like hours, until my feet went numb, until the shaking stopped, until I could feel my breath again. Then I walked back, inside, quiet, careful. The house was dark. No footsteps, no voices, just the soft hum of the fridge, and the tick of the clock on the wall, like the world didn't even notice what had just happened. I went straight to my room, locked the door, sat on the floor with my back pressed against it, like that would keep him out. And I cried. But that wasn't the end. The worst part. It came after that night. I didn't speak to him, didn't even let him see me. I started avoiding the house altogether. I'd leave early in the morning before he was up and wander around town with no real place to go. The park, the library, the bus stop on the edge of town where no one really waited for anything. I didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't speak to anyone. I just floated. My body was still there, but my mind was somewhere else, somewhere far, far away. When I did come home, I'd wait until it was late, really late, until I was sure he was in his room, until the lights were off, until even the fridge hum felt too loud, and then I'd tiptoe up the stairs like a ghost trying not to be seen. He never came to my door again, but what scared me more than anything was how hected, like nothing had happened, like none of it was real. He still made tea, still cooked dinner like everything was fine, still left the porch light on for me like he was doing me a favor. And Thessalon's between us. It wasn't awkward. It was deliberate, calculated as if we had made some unspoken agreement to bury what happened deep. But I hadn't agreed to anything. I was just surviving. And Eli changed too. He wouldn't look at me. Not really. Not like he used to. If I walked into the room, he'd leave. If I sat at the table, he'd grab his plate and take it upstairs. At first I thought it was just the grief we were all unraveling in our own way. But then one night he passed me in the hallway, and had flinched just slightly, barely noticeable. But I saw it, felt it, and I wondered, did he know? Did he hear something that night, or worse? Had he seen the guilt was unbearable? Because suddenly I wasn't just a daughter trying to survive her father's broken love. I was a sister, trying to protect someone who maybe didn't need me anymore, who maybe didn't want me anymore. The few times we were all in the same room at dinner, mostly the silence wasn't just uncomfortable, it was loud, suffocating. He'd ask how school was. Eli would grunt. I'd say fine, and we'd all stare at our plates like they were going to rescue us one night. He reached for my hand across the table, just for a second, not even touching, just reaching, and I flinched hard. Eli saw and he pushed his chair back, so suddenly it scraped against the floor. He grabbed his dish and disappeared. Didn't even rinse. It just left it in the sink, like a goodbye. I started getting these episodes, panic attacks. I guess that's what they'd be called now. My chest would tighten. My vision would blur. I'd be sitting on the bathroom floor, shaking, trying to remember how to breathe, trying to convince myself I wasn't trapped, that the walls weren't closing in, but they